Welcome to the Georgia Show. Welcome back. Glad to have you with us today. I'm here with Bill Quinn. A lot has gone on in the last week, a lot of really bad things, but we're going to talk about really what you need to know and not necessarily going to revisit everything that happened this week, but really just point to some things as we always do. What in the future, we think there's going to be a lot more coming out on this, a lot of strange occurrences. But Bill, what do you think and what do you want to talk about today?
If I look across the spectrum of social media and mainstream media, even right now, there is a dichotomy of opinions as to what we've witnessed this week. For that reason, my instinct is to, take a deep breath and continue to watch. And I suspect that there's enough people now looking at all the details of everything that's happened, who are digging into these things. They're finding out who people were. They're finding out where they were. They're finding out what happened. They're questioning things, which I believe we should. And as that has a bit of time to work, I believe we will learn more. So my own instinct at this moment is take a nice deep breath, keep watching, evaluate what we see, and continue forward. In the meantime, report what we know is happening here in Georgia and elsewhere, and help people understand that, and where they can maybe participate. So we'll be talking about some of that today as well.
Totally agree. Kind of to borrow a phrase from Elon Musk, a hive mind approach. We've got so many people out there looking at this. Hopefully the truth will come out, because I tell you what, people sure don't have trust in the institutions right now at all, as they should not. So
that's true.
We will see. We are brought to you by the Georgia Record, GeorgiaRecord.com. CDM is the parent company. But we need you to do several things. We need you to follow our social media and sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It gives us capital to do what we do best, which is a lot of early, cutting edge, breaking reporting. Pattern recognition is what we're good at. And we go out and get the stories, and we need resources to do that. So please sign up for our no ad subscriptions. Top right corner of the website, subscribe with no ads, and you will get access to all of our content with no ads. And we are ramping up the content, if you haven't noticed, across all the different websites, really bringing CDM and the vision into the original way we saw things before we were attacked massively over the last 5 years, and are still being attacked. And that's one reason we need resources, because we're just, we had multiple DDO, denial of service attacks after our reporting on some of the Christian issues in the last week. And it takes money to deal with all this. So thank you. And we'll get into some ads later on, Bill, but let's get rolling. We got a lot to get through.
Okay. So first up, let's talk about something going on here in Georgia. Folks will recall the debacle surrounding the state convention for the GOP some months ago, back the first week of June, and the many questions that surrounded that. They'll recall that complaints were lodged both with the GOP Inc. here in Georgia, along with the Republican National Committee through Michael Whatley. And the next step was taken, perhaps some might call it a necessary step, was taken this week. We published it yesterday. We talked about the time frame, and given all the confusion over the last few days, we thought it was best to get this out in a time frame when people were beginning, I'll call it, to calm down a bit or get their eyes back engaged. And so we published this article on the Georgia Record, and it speaks to a letter which was constructed and sent from a number of members of the Georgia GOP, including members of the state committee, many members, many of those from district committees, and many of those from county committees. Now, I do want to be open and address that there have been, for now years, there are questions about what is the GOP in Georgia. We found, and you reported early on, that a corporation had been formed a number of years ago that appears now to have supplanted the standard GOP party. And that's a fair question. People questioned over the last 24 hours, should you even be talking about the GOP? Does the GOP party even exist in Georgia in its traditional form? Or are we really looking at a corporation that has taken the place of a party? It's a valid question, and we've debated that in past airings. Folks like researchers and authors like Hank Sullivan and others have done extensive work on this. It is a concern. It's a valid question. However, when we put together this reporting, we named it the GOP because of those in Georgia and outside the state that don't really understand everything that's going on. We wanted to make sure that the nature of this letter got on their radar. And so for simplicity, we called it the GOP, but it is GOP Inc. in Georgia, and those concerns still exist. All right. So what is this thing and why are we calling it out? Well, let me go back here. So here's the title page. You can go to the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, and you can review our writing on it, which we didn't add a lot to it. The letter was quite extensive, but the letter calls for specifically a trial and removal of members of the Frost family that continue even today to be members of the state committee, members of district committees, especially District 3, and in some cases, members of local county committees. And that seems to be, many call it inappropriate, given what's been learned regarding the Frost family and their involvement in First Liberty Building and Loan, and the investigations that are going on, and victims who have come forward, and victims who have said what happened to them in giving their money, their investments, we'll call it for the time being, to First Liberty Building and Loan. And those now appear to have been caught up in a Ponzi scheme that the SEC has filed charges surrounding and called it a $140 million Ponzi scheme. As time has gone on, there have been additional complaints and additional investigations, both from the Secretary of State and now from the Ethics Commission in Georgia, that involve Brant Frost, now the fifth, and his dealings with the Political Action Committee underneath, or as part of, or an adjunct to, the Georgia Republican Assembly, not part of the GOP, but a separate organization. The very nature of these people still being involved makes people uncomfortable, questioning, and in some cases upset, because the victims that have been surfaced with regard to First Liberty Building and Loan have come out and illustrated monies, lots of money that they have contributed in the hopes of getting a return that was promised by members of the Frost family. That have now appears that their investments have been usurped, and may hopefully will be at least partially recovered, but some may never be recovered. And so this Ponzi scheme now appears to have gone across what is said to be 38 states. This includes contributions from members of the Frost family, contributions potentially from adjunct organizations, recipient associated companies underneath First Liberty Building and Loan, or adjunct to First Liberty Building and Loan, that may have gotten funding. But these people are still, these victims are still harmed by this. And the deeper you get into the victims, the more troubling this seems. Many lost tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes over 1 million. And it may be their entire or a large portion of their life savings, which makes this even more egregious. Secondly, the letter does state that they targeted, in some ways, they use a different term, but they basically went after people of Christian faith and church-going Christians to entice them to invest in First Liberty Building and Loan. Why would they go after those people? Why did they go after members of the GOP itself across Georgia and perhaps even outside the state? Well, we don't have answers to any of that yet. Why would they do that? But this letter specifically asks that it is directed, first of all, to Josh McCoon, the so-called chairman of the Georgia GOP, Inc., and it asks that a trial and charges be put in place ultimately that could lead to the removal of Brant Frost V, Krista Frost, the mother, and Katie Frost, the sister, from their leadership posts and really membership even across the state committee, district committee, county committees, and potentially more, I suppose. Elsewhere in the letter, it calls out Alex Kaufman and specifically says that he should be disqualified from representing the party. Why? Because in the filings associated with First Liberty Building and Loan, Kaufman's firm received over $30,000 in payments that appears to have been compensation in connection with the Frost financial dealings. So anything to do with considering removing them, Kaufman should not be a part of. That would appear to be a clear conflict of interest to many, many that are laymen, but still conflict of interest in their judgment. Who presented this letter? Well, it was drafted by one specific lady. We grant her a lot of credit for being courageous enough to put this together. But in addition, it includes the names of dozens of GOP members, state committee members, district committee members, and county committee members, and even a few elected officials demanding essentially that Josh McCoon and the organization take these actions to remove these people. We think it's long called for. It has been talked about, and many have questioned, why this has not been done up to now, especially given McCoon's previous statements about the need to protect the image, if you will, of the Georgia Republican Party, and to prevent those who might not look so good if they were part of the party or in a position of leadership, that they should be removed. Now, some have made the argument, some that are McCoon and supporters of the current status quo have said, well, this is not, these people have not been convicted. Well, that's true, but this is not a case for conviction. The current inquiry by the SEC and by the Secretary of State's office and so forth are essentially civil investigations. So the standard in a civil investigation is different than a criminal investigation. Will there be criminal investigations? Well, we don't know quite yet, but it is entirely possible that such a thing would happen, but it will probably be in the future. At the moment, what's happening is a receiver has been named, and he is attempting to retrieve as much funding as possible to help the damages that have been apparently created with these victims. So that's the process we're in now. We are not in a criminal proceeding, either with the SEC or with federal investigators. We're in a civil investigation. So add that all up, and we give many kudos, much credit to those who helped put that letter together and got it to Josh McCoon. Now, it was delivered, I believe, on the 10th or 11th, along with a number of documents which support their positions in asking that that a trial be put together and that these people consider to be removed from the GOP. We will see what happens. Up to this point, McCoon, when questioned about the state convention and about the Frost circumstances, has been fairly quiet. Now, he doesn't have any problem issuing statements with regard to events around the country, school shootings and other things, but seems to be reticent to make statements regarding what, if anything, is being done regarding all of these complaints, all of these concerns. And indeed, Michael Whatley, who received formal complaints following the state convention, issued a statement saying that those complaints had been forwarded to something known as a dispute committee within the RNC. But we have heard, at least the Georgia Record has heard, nothing more regarding other decisions, statements, actions of either the dispute committee, so-called dispute committee, or the RNC itself. What will happen next? We don't know. But again, we give credit to those who took the time and put their names on this letter to put pressure on the status quo to consider making changes here. We think it's well warranted and should be looked into. We'll see whether leadership really steps up and actually does something this time.
I have a few comments. One, I don't think anyone can look at this and see the complete refusal to even address the concerns of the Georgia GOP members across the state on this, what not us, but what I believe the SEC said was a Ponzi scheme.
Mhm.
And those people are still in office. So I don't know what other word you can use except corrupt in this party. So that's number one. Number two, I'm reminded of a situation with our friend BKP, who something surfaced of his distant past. He was drummed out via a trial pretty quickly in a way, and I don't remember the specifics, but it wasn't per the Georgia GOP guidelines, or bylaws, if I remember correctly. It was done in a very authoritarian way. And number three, we're going to have, what is, if that's true, what is the agenda behind these people that are corrupt and in positions of power? And I think Shiv Jam Fleet will talk about later in the show what that agenda, possibly some of that agenda may be. But back to you.
Okay. So it was very interesting. I had about an hour's conversation with David Clemens, who is a professor. He was a professor of law in Arizona and was ultimately removed from that position because of his refusal to, for example, take a shot which should not have been mandated, but which they tried to force onto him. And then they termed him a conspiracy theorist for asking questions regarding the elections across the country. Well, now that we've seen what Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel and others have brought out, his findings, his conjecture at the time has now been shown to be well-founded, given what we now learn about the machines and about potentially people that were and maybe are still trying to circumvent a truthful process in our elections here in America. So we had a very good discussion with him, talked about some of his podcasts and his Substack that he reignited after taking a few months off following the election. And we find that his views have been fascinating. He's looked into the notion of why does this feel so, there's so many actions that feel evil in many of these things. Talks about that, talks about the nature of a relationship in a family, especially husband and wife, and why that is so critical, and perhaps why that's been targeted in many ways going back over the last perhaps couple of decades, maybe longer. And so he brought out a new both post to his Substack and also a podcast that's fairly short, but speaks to this notion of lawfare and how it's been used and how in many cases it seems so unfair. And he uses his own experience in trying to protect and go after a case on his own behalf and what was done in his case that I think may play a role into a lot of this stuff going on in Georgia. Why? Because he speaks to the ability to do pro se litigation, meaning by yourself on your own, but using certain tools that are now available. And he seems to encourage folks to not be afraid of the legal process, but in fact to learn enough that you can get engaged on your own. So it's about 14 minutes. I would like to play this. This will take us past the half hour, but I think it's valuable, especially here in Georgia, because of a lot of things going on, including, very frankly, this letter that just came out. If these folks don't get action, is there another means to go forward? Well, if you listen to David Clemens, he might have a couple ideas that may bear fruit here. So with your approval, Todd, we'll go ahead and begin.
Yeah, let's go.
The courts are a cruel machine. a labyrinth of rules where truth stumbles. For the pro se litigant, alone without a lawyer's shield, it's a rigged battlefield. They fumble the law's language, miss deadlines, botch filings. Judges, wary of errors, frown. Opposing counsel, sharp and funded, prey on every slip. The system demands precision they can't give. Fees stack high. Emotion clouds reason. Resources run dry. The law isn't a sanctuary for truth, but a crucible for manipulation, intimidation, domination. Victory belongs not to the just, but to those who crush their foe. A pastor once taught me, witchcraft isn't always potions or cauldrons. It's any spirit seeking control, not truth. In churches or courtrooms, that spirit thrives. Legalism haunts the courts, cold and unholy. Attorneys wield its weapon, accusation. Like Satan accusing Job in heaven's court, they accuse in earth, twisting truth into lies. Their God, the rules of procedure. To hell with a father's plea for his kids, they sneer. Did he cite the right statute? Another moves to bury a small business that failed to observe the fine print. I've seen it. I've felt it. Pro se, I fought their spells, scarred but standing. Yes, I'm here to tell you, legal witchcraft is as present in a courtroom as any coven meeting. Robes still adorn the judges, ballpoint pens act as magic wands, legal briefs with their precise words replace spells. Oral argument takes the place of incantation. Unopposed, the haggard clerk, wart extending from her nose, etches a false record, wiping out the truth, at least the truth as God sees it. I'm a lawyer. I know the law's edges. But I've also stood pro se, no firm behind me, no secretary to check my work, just me against their machine. Fear grips, but faith holds tighter. That's the story today. The crucible of lawfare, a pro se battle against legal witchcraft. The year was 2014. Sun scorched the pavement outside my campaign office in New Mexico. Dust and hope hung thick. I, David K. Clements, ran for U.S. Senate, a Republican with a fire to shake Washington. A year earlier, I'd won the GOP chairmanship of New Mexico's second largest county, a nobody rising fast. The primary was a grind, door knocks, debates, hands shaken raw. 33 counties, each with a convention to win delegates. My opponent, Alan Way, a multimillionaire, had the establishment's nod before a vote was cast. A new black box, Dominion, rolled out that year. A vote conjurer. It could summon ghosts, switch tallies, erase truth. But before its shadow fell, I fought for votes the old way, county conventions, then a statewide showdown. I surged. At Bernalillo's pre-primary in Way's backyard, I was set to claim half the delegates. Polls showed me edging towards victory at the state convention. The crowd felt it. Momentum was mine. Way's campaign manager, Diego Espinoza, saw it too. So they cheated. An illegal slate, 30 phantom delegates not even present, was injected to steal seats from those who waited hours to vote. Cameras caught it. The Santa Fe Reporter quoted eyewitnesses Bill and Elaine Henderson. Irregular, illegal, a damned charade. Their words unmasked the rot, but the damage was done. I reported the fraud. The GOP shrugged, fearing Way's wallet. With a week until the state convention, I sent a single email to delegates exposing the cheat. Time remained to fight. Then Espinoza struck. That single email, he hacked it. Spoofing, some called it. He flooded delegates' inboxes with thousands of duplicates, making it look like I'd lost my mind. A forensic report traced the hack to him. Hard proof of deceit. I published it, but confusion reigned. At the convention, my lead held briefly. Then Espinoza's phantom slate tipped the scales. My 47% fell short. Way took the nomination. Newspapers called it a race. 2 months remained until the primary. The black box waited. Fearing my near upset, Espinoza filed a defamation suit, claiming I lied about his hack. Lawfare bankrolled by Way's millions. Pure witchcraft. Manipulation to tarnish. Intimidation to silence. Domination to crush. The sheriff's office investigated Espinoza's hack with my cyber evidence, but the lawsuit aimed to distract. Election night at the restaurant La Posta, adobe walls glowed under lantern light. My team crowded around televisions, eyes on the Secretary of State's site. The first report flashed. I led by 14,000 votes. Cheers shook the rafters. Victory seemed mine. But 5 minutes later, the votes flipped. Way took my lead. The secretary claimed mail-in ballots caused it. Impossible. No slow count could shift votes so fast. The black box had spoken. I learned later, November 3rd, 2020, its name, Dominion. Way won. I faced his lawsuit. An old adage echoed, only a fool has himself for counsel. But attorneys cost $300 an hour, at least at the time. Researching their claims, 15 hours. Writing response, 5 hours. Filing a counterpunch, a motion to dismiss, 20 hours. Depositions, 30 more. I'd be bankrupt in months. So I fought pro se. Their accusations cut. My name, my campaign, my honor. I called Espinoza's lawyers. I don't care if this takes years, I said. I'll outlast you. The day that a jury sits, you're mine. Click. 2 years later, the courtroom buzzed like flies. A week before trial, I was worn thin. Depositions, hearings, my prosecutor caseload heavy with a murder trial looming. Unable to find a babysitter, my son Roland, 5, sat behind me at a pretrial hearing, wearing Hulk smash hands, promised a candy bar to stay quiet. Espinoza's lawyers, suits crisp, painted me a villain. They moved for judgment, chanting rules like spells. I parried, threw case law back. The judge stared. Motion denied. We go to trial. They faltered. I tried 40 jury cases in 2 years, soon to be named Prosecutor of the Year. They'd done one. Before a jury, their rules would crumble. Fear didn't grip me. I was too angry. I vowed to God I'd rather die than let them win. My son brought me back to the present. Did I do good, Dad? Was I quiet? Yes, son, I replied. I owe you a candy bar. The next day, their lawyer called. What will it take to settle? I only wanted one thing, the one thing they didn't want to give. To tell the world Diego Espinoza hacked me as I did in the beginning. They balked. Their entire strategy from day one put a muzzle on Clements. So they sent a deal. It wasn't a bad offer, but it had an NDA. Temptation tugged. I wanted freedom from the burden. The Holy Spirit steadied me. Another day, another offer. They were beginning to crack. This time, no NDA. While I can't disclose the contents of the settlement agreement, I can tell you that Diego Espinosa's lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice, that he's a coward, a weasel, and that he hacked my campaign, and I can shout it from the rooftops until the day I die. The desert air is sharp now, September 2025. I sit at my desk, a former professor, drafting a lawsuit. New Mexico State University fired me in October 2021, not for teaching, where I'd won their highest award, but for defying their COVID vaccine and mask mandate. Lawfare again, a policy of control, not truth. They took millions in bribes, disguised as health measures, to coerce faculty and students, breaking my contract, breaking their contract, trampling our rights. I warned them at my termination hearing. Their kangaroo court would be exposed. I stayed silent since, focusing on electing Trump to fight the depopulation engineers. Now, with Trump nominating RFK Jr. to dismantle the CDC, I wait no longer. Pro se, I'll sue. This fight against courts, mandates, lies, needs warriors. It's for Roland, Eleanor, Logan. It's for anyone sued wrongfully, afraid to fight. Lawfare demands spiritual grit. What's more, the lawyers trained in their ivory towers are cowards. 2020 proved it. It will be the lumberjack layman, the pro se plumber, that rights the wrongs we've seen. I leaned on the Holy Spirit to endure isolation, to stand when lies swarmed about me. The university's mandate harmed students. Blood clots, myocarditis, miscarriage. It grieves God's heart. Fear is the true enemy, not the rules wielded by liars. I survived by taking fear to God. He sustained me. Scripture commands no fear. It chains you to silence. Trust the Spirit to walk beside you. Step by better step. Tools like Grok, AI's shadowed aid, can unearth rules in seconds, leveling the fight. But wisdom to wield them comes hard. Cast out fear, first and foremost, then truth will find a way. So now you know my latest battle. A few dollars a month, less than coffee, keeps this voice alive. Substack link below. For Roland, for truth, I fight on. God bless, and good night.
So for those who listened through that, I believe you're going to hear some things that probably rang very familiar given everything that's happened here in Georgia in the last 5 years. So again, we give a ton of credit to Professor Clemens for putting all these thoughts together, but especially this one, because this might be something that will allow people to take things forward when perhaps they might not have done so otherwise. We'll see.
Let me add, Chris Gleason has been all over this pro se movement too, and actually had some success in Florida, although now he's up literally going to the Supreme Court. But the judges were so, I sat in a courtroom where he confronted a judge. When the judge said something wrong, he said, "No, Your Honor, and here's my complaint for you to be removed from the bench." And the look on the whole court's face was off the charts, and it was beautiful to see. So you need to know what you're doing, but there's a lot of AI tools, like he said, and Gleason has one, and there's others.
That's right.
Yeah.
So before we move on, I just wanted to point out a couple things that folks can rely on. One, if you haven't yet take the time to go find the professor's record, either Substack, X, or on his website itself. He's also publishing what you just saw, both on X and on YouTube. And we continue to watch what he's bringing out, because each new segment seems to have important truths for us to consider as we go forward. So kudos to David, and we suggest folks follow and support him where they can.
Outstanding. Love that interview. I mean, that production. He's a talented guy in many ways.
He is. You should have seen the faces on a couple of the county commissions when he put them to task for their inactivity regarding anything to deal with the elections. And they didn't seem very comfortable about it, I will tell you.
Well, let's just pay some bills here real quick. Our resident financial advisor, David Cross, if you have a need, call him, because he is the guy that you can trust. We have dealt with him for years. We've had a lot of good experience, and I've seen his caring in action when he's dealing with his clients. So, Bill, could you run one of his ads real quick?
You bet.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
The other one I wanted to just highlight real quick is the wellness company, twc.health/CDM. Promo code CDM, you get 10% off. This is one of their emergency medical kits. If you open it up, it has, this is the contagion kit. It has the nebulizer. It has steroids, everything you need for any type of respiratory issue. There's also the travel emergency kit, and also the supplements like this Ultimate Spike Detox for those who have been vaccinated. There's a lot more, though. I would suggest you go to the website and play around and just spend some time and see what they have and how they're re-engineering healthcare. twc.health/CDM. And again, promo code CDM, but they have the subscriptions, they have the doctor's visits, the weight loss, the parasite cleanse, wellness farms, where you can get direct beef with no mRNA and grass-fed beef. So there's a lot there. And I think, we're big on self-reliance and supporting free media at the same time. And this is a way you can do that. Protect your family. At the same time, you help free media and help save the republic. So that's that. Back to you, Bill.
That's great. Well, you had mentioned you've got some very interesting interviews that you wanted to share. So let's move to those.
Yeah, sure. So G. Van Fleet is a friend of the show. We've interviewed her many times. She's a literal survivor of the Maoist Cultural Revolution. And she'll talk about that here. This is not that long, but I did it with her this week, and she's a wonderful woman. She cares about America. She's spent time at my house. We stayed up late into the evenings talking about these issues. But after the Charlie Kirk shooting, and I saw some things she was putting up on X, I said, gee, we got to get you on, and we need to talk about this. So I'm just make sure this is full screen. And here we go. She, how you doing? Thanks for joining me last minute today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, you're a friend of the show. I've interviewed you a lot. We've had long conversations into the night in person before, but you are a survivor of the Maoist Cultural Revolution. With the assassination of Charlie Kirk, are you seeing any similarities there to your
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I've been doing since the sad news that I received the sad news yesterday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Communism is violence, and what we have here, this is something people still not everyone understand. What we have here is communism.
Mm-hmm.
Woke is communism. DEI is communism.
Mm-hmm.
Identity politics is communism. This is communism. And then when they can't. Okay, but when they can't win the argument, the open debate, the exchange of ideas, like what Charlie Kirk championed, they just have to eliminate you. It's always the case. It's never failed. In China, they did that to anyone they consider a troublemaker.
Yeah.
That someone dare to think, and someone dare to think differently, and someone to dare to share its opinion. And they have to be eliminated. And I just know people who are just taken away and put in labor camp for re-education. Many of them just vanished. And during the Cultural Revolution, especially, Mao allowed the young, radicalized people, just like today's youth in college and in our public schools, to believe that violence is the way to get rid of the people with wrong thoughts.
You're seeing that a lot in the comments on Charlie's assassination. I mean, the just disgusting comments like, I'm glad he's gone, you know, who's next, all that kind of stuff, right? That's what you're talking about.
Exactly. And that's why when all those so-called democratic leaders say they denounce violence, they don't. What they believe, the ideology they believe, the ideology they try to push is communism. And did you follow Obama? He said, you know, sorry to hear the sad news and condemn violence. And then, you know, like a less than 10 minutes, he was pushing his divisive ideology about ICE.
Yeah.
They're communists. And this is something else I really think people still don't understand. And I think more and more people are awakened. And I do hope that this tragedy of assassination will waken up more people. We're no longer dealing with just another party with a different idea, and we disagree of how to make America a better place. No. They are absolutely 100% communists. And communism believes in nothing but violence.
And power.
And power. But how do they get power? Through violence. How do they control power? Through violence. And I think a lot of people say, oh, China is no longer that way. No, it is still the same way. And I hope people really remember that young Chinese student during the COVID lockdown, she held a piece of blank paper, nothing, just blank paper, and she was arrested and disappeared because she dared to go out there and use her blank paper to challenge the authority. Gone. We don't know where she is, and that is communism. They don't, you know, here we still have freedom. We still can debate, but in China, no debate. No. When the Democrats, they have total control, that was the case. No debate.
Well, you know, you look at the Marxist ideology where all this started, and it went to Russia, and that was a communist revolution. It destroyed that country. It went to China. It's still there. And now it's come
Cuba.
And it's a global power grab. I mean, it's really elites using that ideology to take power and control, I think. What do you think?
Absolutely. So today, what we're saying, okay, I call it communism. It is communism, but the real truth is globalism. With communist characteristics. Why they take the communism as a way to get power? Because that proved effective. That has been proved very, very effective because it's very, very deceptive. At first, they're deceptive, and because everything they do is for the sake of social justice, is to protect our democracy. And so, and that's why when your goal is so lofty, any means it's justified, including assassination.
Well, you've seen that online. I mean, people are a lot of the youth are fine with it. I mean, they're like,
absolutely fine.
Who's next?
They're cheering, cheering on. And I saw a video, very disturbing, a video on the university campus. They just witnessed something, and then just said, someone has to do it. It's a job. Someone has to do it. They're just fine with it. And when we have this kind of mentality among our youth, and we are really in the verge of a revolution when people can just kill others they don't like, and with moral justifications.
So how do you stop that among the youth? Have you seen any effective tools? I know Charlie was very effective. That's why they killed him, right?
he's absolutely the most effective. And then you can see that. I watched him for years. And in the beginning, his tent, he has a table and have a few students there, and they debate, and most of them walk away. Now look at his meeting. It's just thousands of students show up. So he actually saved the younger generation, and that's why we see so many people vote for Trump. But the work just started. And we have so much to do. And I tweeted something today, and I said, each time Charlie Kirk was debating a leftist student, he was really, really debating the entire academic establishment, because those academia has been run by Marxists. They are the ones that brainwashed the students. They are the ones that make them hate America and embrace violence. So in order to save the country, I always say that we first we have to take back our school. We have to engage. And just like what Charlie Kirk, I was hoping that one day I would able to join Charlie on one of those campus events, because the young people is really determine the future of our country.
Well, maybe we need to work on that and get you out in the colleges, because you are very effective because you've had the experience, right? I mean,
and I hope people listen to me, but it is very difficult when I watch those debates. It's just not debates. It really show us that how bad, how dire the situation is. They cannot think critically. They just cannot. And then they refuse to see to really have a constructive debate, and then they refuse to see fact. And those are the red cards. They were the red cards that brought down brought down China. And I was hoping that I can reach out to more youth, but I just finished my second book, and it's coming out in January. And I'm very active on Twitter, and anywhere people ask me to go and speak, and I would. And I just not too long ago, a group of homeschoolers, the parents asked me to talk to them, and I did online. And because we all need to reach out to the youth, to save the youth, to save our future.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Well, tell us about the book, Xi. I mean, well, first tell us the first book and tell us about the second book.
Yeah, the first book was really the comparison of the two cultural revolutions, and one was Mao's Cultural Revolution. I lived through when I was starting at age of 7. I lived through it, and then when Mao died, I was 17, 10 years, and I lived through it. And the book is just a warning to Americans that this absolutely is a repeat. Yeah, and I don't know, this is my luck or whatever. I happen to live through both, and I can tell people with authority, this is the same thing. It's history repeating, and it's so well received. I'm just very, very grateful that my book is so well received. The second book, and I work with a very well-known Chinese dissident, and this book is about how United States fail to understand communism and help to enable the CCP to grow and eventually become our worst, most powerful enemy. And it's all happened here. And it's happened because Americans, the American leaders, the diplomats, intellectuals, even today, They do not understand communism.
Do you think it's that, or do you think they're communists themselves and are enabling it?
Yeah, there are two kinds, or maybe more than two. One is they are leftists, and the leftists is just a few steps away from become full-fledged communists.
Right.
They are called fellow travelers, and there's some just total naivete, have no understanding. They use their experience to understand a culture, understand the ideology that they know nothing about. But they were so arrogant. They feel like they know everything. They make decisions. And now what we are facing is our enemy, the CCP. It's not just over there. It's everywhere inside our society, infiltrated every part of our culture and our institutions, and they have their allies. Those are the communists here. Those are the Democrats, and those are the rhinos. They are all communists. Some are full-fledged. Some are just a communist light.
Well, I think what you have is, like you said, the young people get in. They're very naive. They get indoctrinated, and then they're kind of confronted, and they refuse to accept reality because it changes their worldview, and that's too hard for them to admit they were wrong, so they stick with that, and then eventually they just get turned into hardened criminals, essentially.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what indoctrination is about, that you no longer can think, or you refuse to think, you accept. And that's what Red Guards are. They're just zombies. They just take orders from Mao, and they no longer have the ability to say, is this right? Does it make sense? No, they just go on and carry it out, and which means really the destruction of the whole society.
Wow. Anything else, you want people to know?
Yeah, I just want to also use this moment to say how much I appreciate Charlie.
Yeah.
And his work, and we must carry on his work.
I agree. And how can people find the books? Tell me the name of the second book.
Oh, it's called Made in America, and the subtitle is kind of long, and I haven't been able to remember all of it. It's Made in America, the hidden history of how United States enabled the communist China and made it our most powerful enemy, something like that. It's so long. Because you have to explain what it means, but it's made in America. It's made in America because we have people who are communists, or who are communist light, or who don't understand communists, and they made mistake one by one, going back to Wilson time, Woodrow Wilson. Yes, it's the whole history.
Thank you, Xi. We'll have you back down the road. Appreciate it. Take care. So Xi is a wealth of information, and really someone that we need to use more to get the message out. I just want to. Did you have anything to comment on that, Bill?
No, I found it fascinating that she, within her life, she has lived through so much.
Yes,
and we need to gather that knowledge from folks like that, because they're the first ones that can tell you, here's what I lived through. I mean, if you recall, one of the gentlemen that was a very strong Trump supporter came himself, I believe, from Cuba, and described what he had gone through and the commitments that he had to make in order to transition to the U.S., and how it was so worth it, because we don't realize sometimes what we have.
So true. I have one more interview before we go there. I just want to, we're back. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me get rid of that and this. We're back on the ALP train, but the URL is different because they changed their system. It's now cdmalp.com. They have a new flavor, was just released, spearmint. I guess it's pretty tasty, a better experience than Zen, and it's moist. And, you know, I tried Zen the other night, and I think Tucker's right. Like, get that out of my mouth. This is much more tasty. So cdmalp.com, check it out. You know, we're all about Christmas is coming, and looking for stocking stuffers. A magazine of ALP containers would be fantastic guests for anyone who enjoys a nicotine pouch. So with that, we wanted to play an interview for you with Andrew Levy, who is the CEO of Avelo Airlines, which flies through Atlanta. They're based in Houston, but their main hub is in New Haven, Connecticut. But they have been attacked relentlessly by the Marxists in Connecticut because they have been flying for the U.S. government deportation flights. and they saw our reporting. We're the paper of record now in Connecticut, the Connecticut Sentinel. Let me just throw that up here. The ConnecticutSentinel.com has been so effective that they said, you know what, we want to give you an exclusive. And so they made a big announcement here, and I want to play this. And if I can find it real quick. This is not that long, but it's a good interview, and we're about business and capital markets at CDM, and this shows our connections and expertise in that area. So here we go. We're honored to have with us today the CEO of Avelo Airlines, Andrew Levy, and he's got quite a story to tell. Welcome, Andrew. Appreciate you coming on today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So we were talking beforehand. Give us the purpose, not so much the mission of Avelo Airlines and what you guys are trying to do.
Sure. Well, our purpose is to inspire travel.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that principally by saving customers both time and money. And our whole business is geared toward fulfilling that purpose. Our focus is going into secondary airports, typically small airports of larger metropolitan areas, and offering a convenient alternative to the big airport down the road, let's say, that's become crowded, congested, and a really difficult experience, and also much more expensive. And so we come into communities in different parts of the country, set up shop, and we offer a really simple short-haul air transportation product that we deliver safely, reliably, with everyday low fares, and a lot of kind and caring crew members that take care of our customers each and every day. And it works. It resonates. People love what we're doing, and we've seen a lot of success. We're 4.5 years into this, so we still got a long way to go. We're still very small, but we're making great progress, and we're excited about what we've accomplished so far, and really excited about the future.
Yeah, we'll talk about your big announcement here in a second, but I wanted to ask you about your reception. I mean, in Connecticut, where you know this is why we connected. It's not been good because of the some political issues, and Connecticut's one of the most or the most infiltrated state in the country as far as the Marxist ideology. But elsewhere in the country, what's been the reception to your business proposition?
Well, look, I think that it just the scheduled service part of our business, which is by far and away the biggest part of our company, and will continue to be going forward. It resonates with the populations of those communities really well. People love what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you're referencing, we did earlier this year dedicate some airplanes with the Department of Homeland Security. And so we're flying a few airplanes for them, and it's in support of what ICE is doing,
Mm-hmm.
Immigration Control and Enforcement. And as we indicated at that time, this was a purely commercial decision, and it made sense for the business then. It makes sense for us now, and we've flown for the United States government since 2021. We've flown for a variety of agencies, including DHS, DOD, HHS, and as a U.S. airline, when the government asks us to fly, we have a strong bias to say yes to that. And in this case, it was commercially the right decision for us. And as you've noted, there's some folks who have taken a real issue with that. And there's certainly a lot of folks who are deeply offended by that decision and want us to reverse that decision. And so the last few months have certainly been more interesting than I would have anticipated as a result of this issue. We've waded ourselves into this political issue and didn't intend to get in the middle of it, but it's clearly on a lot of people's minds.
Well, I can tell you, all over the country, the support of ICE is hugely popular. I mean, it's not maybe in Connecticut, but you mentioned you're based in Texas. I would imagine it's pretty popular there. But what's been the impact of like these groups, Indivisible? We've covered this a lot, that are trying to go after you in Connecticut. Has it impacted you financially or reputationally or any other business wise?
I'd say the short answer is no, financially.
Mm-hmm.
We have not, when you expect to see, when you look at your sales numbers
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of looking to see an effect. And even when you're looking, you still don't see it. Makes me feel very confident saying that no, we have not seen any effect on our sales in any market that we've served around the country. Now, I have no doubt that there are some individuals who might have considered flying with us who have chosen for political reasons not to. But if that's the case, which I'm sure is true, but I get angry emails about people who maybe didn't have a good experience. We do a great job. We're the #1 airline in on-time performance in the United States, and we've been that way for almost 3 years, since 2023.
Wow.
But we do have bad days, and sometimes we have customers who don't like their experience, and they'll say, "I'll never fly you again," and in most cases, maybe they don't. But no, we've seen no effect from our sales. Now, I mean, clearly, our brand has taken a little bit of a reputation hit because for a sector of the population, they are confusing us with the United States government. We're not ICE. We don't deport anybody. We fly airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
We fly airplanes, and in this case, we're flying airplanes for the Department of Homeland Security. We also fly airplanes for the Department of Defense, and we have flown airplanes for lots of other groups. But they're taking out, I think, their frustrations about things that are happening under this administration on us, and which I wish wasn't the case, but so be it.
You may not want to answer this, but what about the Connecticut government? Do you want to? They've been A.G. Tong has not been in your corner, and he's and it's not just you. There's a lot of things he's not happy with right now. Any comment on his behavior?
I think that I think my biggest issue with some political leaders in the state of Connecticut, and I don't want to name names, is that I feel that there's been a lot of 100% incorrect information that has been put out there, and it's been very frustrating to read that. I'll give you a couple examples. There was a lot of repeating of. I mean, just because you repeat something doesn't make it true. And I'll give you a few examples. Number one, that we had some sort of special tax benefit in the state of Connecticut for jet fuel. That was 100% false. Never true. Never once true. We pay the same tax rate for the purchase of jet fuel in the state of Connecticut as every other airline in the state of Connecticut, and that has never been any different. Never once. So that is just false. The second was we're getting all this special big subsidies from the state of Connecticut. Also untrue. The state of Connecticut actually approached us asking if we would consider flying internationally, specifically to Montego Bay, because there was some money that had been allocated by a prior legislative session to support service that would be of a lot of interest to a number of residents in Connecticut. And we looked at it, and we thought we could make it work, and we decided, you know what, we'll do it. And that kind of support in the early stages of any route is commonly done in airports all around the country for route development, and that's what we've done there. And that's not free money. That helps us with a portion of the cost of operating a very expensive flight that takes a lot of hours to get there. So there's been a lot of noise that suggests otherwise, and that's simply untrue. I'd also say that I have seen some statements that suggest that somehow we're doing something that in any way is illegal. That's absurd. We fly everything we do as a company. We do at the highest levels of safety and regulatory compliance, and to even suggest that anything we do is illegal is I have a real problem with it, because it's simply factually untrue. So there have been some leaders who have made comments of that nature, and I haven't personally cared for that at all. There's been a lot of other leaders who have been pretty silent, and I certainly appreciate that, because this was a decision we made that was purely a commercial decision. It was the same commercial decision that we made when there was a different administration in charge in Washington, D.C. And And this is a commercial decision for our business, the right thing for our business. And, look, people are free to obviously express themselves, and that's fine. I mean, but I prefer they stick to the facts and not put out their falsehoods. So that's been a bit frustrating at times.
Well, that seems like a reasonable request. Well, let's talk about the big announcement you got. You're bringing on some new aircraft, and I think some of it has to do with short takeoff and landing capabilities, which as a former military pilot, I totally get. That's a big game changer. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, so today we fly 22 Boeing 737 next generation aircraft, and they're terrific airplanes. And we expect actually to add several more 737s, certainly between now and when we start taking this new airplane, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's a great airplane, but the 737, especially the 800 series, which is the majority of our fleet, it's a big airplane. It's 190 seats. Today we announced an order for the purchase of 50 aircraft that are manufactured by Embraer, which is the leading manufacturer of smaller aircraft in the world. Everybody that's listening to this who's flown in the United States has probably flown on one of their airplanes connecting through a hub, or even if you live in a hub city, maybe flying it on a smaller route. These are the airplanes that are 2x2 seating in the cabin. This version of airplane that they produced is a large, let's call it a small mainline aircraft. To me, it's still pretty large, but it'll accommodate about 140 seats. It's going to have 2x2 seating, full-size bins, lots of stowage underneath the seat in front of you. We're going to have power in the seats. It's going to be a phenomenal product for our customers. And Embraer does a terrific job of building aircraft and supporting aircraft. And we're thrilled because not only are we announcing a huge order of these aircraft, we're actually the first airline in the United States to fly this aircraft in the U.S. And we're very excited to bring this airplane to the U.S. market. And we think it's going to be, as you mentioned, a game changer for us.
Well, you mentioned power in the seats. As a guy who travels a lot, that's critical. I actually have to go in and check and make sure there's Wi-Fi and power before you get on a plane.
We don't have Wi-Fi right now, and we might in the future with this airplane, perhaps. But look, those things, customers love those things. Now, the one thing we have is that, look, we fly short haul trips. Our average length of departure is just a little over 2 hours. I don't see that changing at all. This airplane is just going to be a better sized airplane for a lot of what we do. And it's going to complement really nicely the 189 seat 737s that we intend to continue to operate for many, many years to come.
Any new routes that are coming online?
Well, we have announced a few new ones that are coming in different parts of the country. New Haven is, in fact, our largest base of operations. And recently we announced service to Key West, Florida, which starts in the fourth quarter. So we're very excited about that. It's off to a very nice start. We have a few other new routes from other bases that we serve, including Wilmington, North Carolina, Charlotte, Concord. It's a satellite airport in the Charlotte metro area. We're serving to a couple different places from there. So, we're very much growing the business and expect to do so as we go through next year. But at the moment, right now, we are actively seeking additional Boeing 737 aircraft to bring into our fleet into next year. This Embraer order that we talked about, the first delivery doesn't show up until the first half of 2027. So that's a good ways away.
Yeah.
And so, lots of exciting news, I'm sure, that we can share between now and then as time goes on and we have more airplanes to work with.
Look forward to it. Is there anything else you want the world to know?
Look, I think I've said a lot that's really important. But I think that we are a small airline. We have 22 airplanes. As an example, some of the largest airlines in the United States, household names, they have close to 1,500 airplanes.
Yeah.
So we are a teeny tiny little business, but we are continuing to make a great deal of progress. We're doing something that people really like. We've carried over 8 million people on 63,000 flights since we started. What we're doing resonates with people. We have great reliability, everyday low fares, and what we're doing works and works well. And we're just really excited as more and more people are aware of what we do, give us a try, see that they can get a fantastic experience on an Avelo airplane out there where we serve. And, we're just building a great business one step at a time. So, thanks for the opportunity to come on the show and talk a little bit about us and what we're doing.
I appreciate it. And we look forward to, following your growth over the next few years. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot.
All right. So I wanted to just play that because CDM is also a growing company. And if you're out there and you want to advertise, this is an example of a world-class company who is international, actually, and has come to us with that exclusive because of our excellent reporting in Connecticut, where they're bashed by the Soros organization across every paper in Connecticut. So we want the Georgia Record to be the same. So if you want to reach the conservative truth audience and really just the smart business capital markets audience as well, we can help. So give us a call. Any thoughts on that, Bill?
I was as I was listening, I thought, well, how would this have affected me when I was traveling? Because in most of my career, I traveled fairly extensively, especially up and down the East Coast and over to the center of the country. And I looked for all the places that I used to travel up through the Carolinas, down to Florida, up to the New York area, Washington area, Boston area, and then over to Chicago. I could not find a location they do not serve that I used to need to go to. So
interesting.
One of the impressions that you might take away is, well, gosh, I maybe they just don't go where I need to go. I could not find any place on the East Coast that they would not serve to be able to get me. And two, I'm very attracted by the notion of a smaller airline, and the reason is because when corporations are smaller, they have a tendency to really stretch to do the right thing for clients. It's just my impression.
Yeah.
But it's one of the keys. And when you hear a company being successful and growing, they must be doing that or they would not be growing. So I would, I intend, if I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to look at them and see if they go where I need to go. And perhaps that's a step that listeners should consider as well.
Well, we were really proud of that because they literally reached out to us and said, look, and I didn't know who they were. And they came to me and said, we love what you're doing in Connecticut and we want to give you an exclusive on our aircraft buy. And I said, fantastic. So I would expect more of a partnership with us and them going forward. That's all I got, Bill. Thank you for your hard work today.
You bet. You bet. All right. We will see you next on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And there'll probably be plenty to discuss.
I think there will be by then. Yes.
Probably. All right. We'll see you soon.